Yes. Fantastic! All right!
After 73 years in darkness, lying on the ocean floor, there she was.
Holy smokes, whoa. It's about. Look at that.
Almost 4 kilometres below the surface of the North Atlantic Ocean, 600 kilometres off the coast of Newfoundland, what was left of the world's most famous and infamous ship, the Titanic.
To understand the significance of this moment, you have to go back about 100 years or so, 1912 to be exact. That's better. This is the age of the great ocean liner, where rival companies would compete to build the biggest, fastest and most luxurious steamship to ferry people between Europe and America.
The RMS Titanic was built by British shipping company White Star Line. It was one of 3 sister ships called the Olympic class, designed to be the safest and most luxurious ships ever. The Titanic took 3 years and more than 15,000 people to build. It was as tall as a 16-storey building and as long as 22 buses.
But what really set it apart was what was on the inside. The Titanic had 4 elevators. Not bad for 1912. There were also squash courts and a gym, if that's your thing. You could also take a dip in a heated swimming pool. First-class passengers could even eat dinner while listening to a live orchestra before returning to their luxury suite. Carry on.
The Titanic was also described as unsinkable, with state-of-the-art safety features including 16 watertight compartments, which could be blocked off if the hull was broken and water got inside. Titanic set off on its maiden voyage on April 10, 1912, from Southampton in England to New York City in the US. 4 days into its 6-day journey, the boat entered an area known for drifting icebergs. Warnings were sent to the captain of the ship, Edward John Smith, who adjusted the ship's course but didn't slow down. And by the time the ship was facing the massive iceberg that would ultimately sink it, it was too late. Captain Smith tried to turn the boat, but the iceberg tore holes along the boat's hull, filling too many compartments with water for the boat to stay afloat. Titanic disappeared into the darkness of the North Atlantic Ocean, taking with it about 1,500 people. Several distress calls were sent to nearby ships, and the RMS Carpathia picked up 700 survivors from the water. The sinking of the Titanic became one of the most famous maritime disasters. It inspired books, poetry, songs and movies.
Iceberg, dead ahead, sir!
But it wasn't until the 1980s that deep-sea exploration technology made finding the Titanic a real possibility. In 1985, oceanographer Robert Ballard was given that task. It was actually a cover for his more secret mission to search for 2 missing nuclear submarines. But for Ballard and his French teammate Jean-Louis Michel, finding the famous shipwreck was a dream. They used 2 experimental deep-sea vehicles called Argo and SAR, which mapped out the area with sonar and video. And just after 1 a.m. on September 1st, after a week of scanning the seafloor with no luck,
the first thing I saw coming out of the gloom at 30 feet was this wall. I never looked down at the Titanic. I looked up at the Titanic. Nothing was small.
Since then, the world's fascination with the Titanic has continued. There have been more stories told and more expeditions to the seafloor, as a whole new wave of fascination was born.